Once a year, my friend throws this huge D&D Witcher thing at his place. If you don't know what that means, Witchers are Polish monster hunters who can cast spells and enhance their abilities through potions. As a homage to this, my friend made some fantasy-inspired drinks for the players, and I made some disco potions too. Players drinking the potions are given appropriate game effects for how well they manage to conquer their drinks. I'll explain like this. The first potion is the Dark Age Sun. The potion is basically a mixture of things people used to eat before the arrival of modern nutritional supplements. For the base ingredient, I chose ginkgo tea, which is really good for blood flow. Next, we'll juice half an orange and half a lemon into the tea for vitamins and acidity. Now, even if your citrus is cut in half, its peel is still tough, like the vegetable potato. If you don't have the strength to juice them by hand, I recommend using the proper tools. Then, we add ginger juice that helps with staph and joint pain, which can be quite helpful when your livelihood is killing fucking Polish beasts. And finally, we'll add 2 teaspoons of Celtic sea salt that is extremely rich in minerals like chloride and sodium. It's not that hard to drink and it helps more than it hurts, so we have the perfect healing potion. For a 3rd level character, I would describe the effect something like this. If the player doesn't finish the potion, he loses half of his HP and gains 3 disadvantages on his constitution saving rolls. If the player does finish the potion, they replenish 20 hit points and gain 20 temporary hit points. Another potion we have is Modrica. I made a whole separate video on Modrica, but you really need to know only 2 things. The first is that it came from a D&D campaign, which I probably can talk about on this channel, and that I have a new way of preparing it. Pour 400 ml of vodka into a glass jar and prepare a 15 cm piece of bandage. Grab 3 teaspoons of cinnamon and dump them onto the cloth. Then fold the bandage into a bowl and tie it with a string. Pour some blue dye over it and dip it into the vodka. Wait until the blue dye reaches the bottom of the jar and then mix the whole thing. Most of the time, you have to wait a good while for the cinnamon flavor to blend in with the alcohol, but we can speed this process up very easily. Just take the jar and place it into a pot of boiling water. Leave it there for a while and it should be ready. As a liquid, Modrica is quite easy to drink, but in a D&D setting, it's a little different. If someone takes a shot of Modrica, they roll a d20 to choose an effect from this list. Most of the time, the effects are like, you run good, or hey, I really wanna scratch my head with that table over there. But sometimes, the effects can be much more esoteric. The next potion on our list is the Bowel Cleaner. We'll start with lemon flavored beer, which can be non-alcoholic if you want to. Next, we add Sprite, Coke, vodka, rum, and icing on the cake, Alpa. And look, I know what you're thinking. Adding Alpa to drinks is like denying the Holocaust. When you say it out loud, people look at you strangely, and in some states, it's even illegal. But don't worry, you only need to add a small amount, about 25 ml, mainly for that good old dental taste. When this giant of a drink is finished, you let it foam out and store it in a cool place. Again, these effects are for a 3rd level character. If the player doesn't finish the potion in one sitting, they gain 3 disadvantages on strength, constitution and attack rolls. But if the player does finish the potion, they gain plus 5 damage on 5 successful attacks and 3 automatic successes on strength, constitution and charisma rolls each. And as the final potion, we have the Eldritch Hot Chocolate. We start with 3 cups of milk. Add 3 tablespoons of sugar, 2 tablespoons of cocoa, and replace the tablespoon with a teaspoon. Let's throw in the spices with a half a teaspoon of cinnamon and the same amount of vanilla extract. It's already starting to taste good, but you can spice it up even more with a half a teaspoon of chili. Finally, we just add a pinch of salt and 56 grams of cooking chocolate. Then take the pot and put it on a stove. Heat it up and mix it until the cooking chocolate completely melts. Now you may be thinking, hey, this all looks very delicious, but why is it called Eldritch Hot Chocolate? Well, because it has something eldritch in it. The idea behind it is that the more a player drinks the opaque chocolate, the more it reveals the monster inside of it. That monster is a sea creature from the shallow depths of Australia's oceans. If you thought Australia's spiders were scary, you haven't really seen what lives in their water. But don't worry, this creature hasn't lived for a long time, isn't poisonous, and it doesn't change the great taste of hot chocolate. It is, however, quite ugly. You can attach this creature to a custom stand that we'll make from the top of a plastic bottle and a thick wire. Tie the specimen to the wire and glue the stand with non-toxic glue against the bottom of the jar. Then slowly pour the hot chocolate into the jar and serve with chocolate chips. If the player doesn't finish the potion, they get 1 automatic fail on death saves and 3 disadvantages on any save rolls. But if they finish the potion, they get 1 automatic success on death saves and 3 inspirations. This reward may seem too generous, but we can't forget that you're giving your friends the liquid equivalent of wasp crackers. Also, count on the fact that the wasps may not be recognizable.
Jebeš, ak tu to vyzerá, keby tam mimozemšťan, pozri sa, keby tam bola rastlina, ty kokos. Tam je rastlina, ty kokos, čo si tam dal?
Že to je mŕtvý vták.
No to je. To je Homer.
Another problem with this potion is its huge price, which reminds me of my Polish uncle Kazimir Jarek. Kazimir was a Polish alchemist, you know. He used to own 3 successful workshops, but he broke the first one and lost the second one. But anyways, he was sitting in his 3rd workshop thinking about how he's gonna earn the grosz this year. That's like the Polish money, you know? So he's sitting there, when a Polish beast comes right through the door and says to Kazimir, "Hey, seeker of the Philosopher's Stone, I need a potion from you." "Potion, you say?" "Yeah, and what potion you want?" "An exciting one." "Alright," says my uncle, and from the top of the shelf, he grabs a brown jar and gives it to the Polish beast. It takes a few sips, but then it starts yelling, "Oh my lord, what in the hell is this gabagool horse shit?" I don't know a lot of Polish words. But anyways, what's this kurva insect floating in my drink? And my uncle says, "Well, that's the excitement." The monster finishes the drink and asks what's he owed, and my uncle, who's in need of money, says that'll be 16 grosz. The beast reaches into his pocket and takes out a $20 grosz bill. "Take it," the beast says to Kazimir as he turns to leave. My uncle looks at the green bill and he's suddenly hit with the realization of who gave him this big bug. So he finally says, "Well, sir, it's not often a man sees a big tipper around here. But it's even less often that he gets to see a Polish beast." And the beast says, "With these prices, I'm not even surprised." So, before you start making any potions, make sure that they're affordable or make them affordable. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.